Tom Brady versus Peyton Manning. How else could you better define what an AFC Championship game should be? You really can't have it any other way. When you have those two guys, you know it's going to be special. Because those two guys bring out the best in each other and have had some of their best career games against each other. Comebacks, back and forth affairs, you name it. But as much as these two quarterbacks are taking in the limelight this week, this is Patriots at Broncos for the AFC title game. You're listening right now to James Drysneric, doing another podcast of Real Steel Sports. This is the official 2013-14 AFC Championship game preview. I hope everybody enjoyed the playoffs so far. So far through the playoffs, I am 6-2. The only games I've gotten wrong were San Diego at Cincinnati in the wild card round, and Carolina hosting San Francisco in the divisional round. This game's going to be really, really interesting. I mean, I'm actually, and believe it or not, I'm looking forward to the NFC game because of the division rivalry thing between San Fran and Seattle more than this. But again, it's Brady Manning. But when it comes to matchups, I would have to say in this game, both offenses are considerable advantages over the opposing defense they'll be going against. New England's offense is far superior than Denver's defense, and Denver's offense, the highest scoring offense in history, that were 600 points this season. 5 guys with double-digit touchdowns. I don't want to have to face that offense. I don't care if I have the steel curtain. What makes these two teams, it's fitting these two teams met in the AFC Championship game and not any other two teams, because if you have two teams that were the best in the conference and they got it completely different ways. Denver got here by blowing teams out, by scoring 40-some points a game. New England got here with being scrappy. They got here with, resolve, with substance. So it's kind of like an unstoppable force versus an immovable object thing. So pretty much you've got silk versus sandpaper, more or less. You've got one team that's been roughened this year by injuries and, off the field elements. And you got another team that has put together one of the greatest statistical seasons in NFL history. So it really is, two polar opposites when you stop and think about it. I would have to say right now that if we're talking New England's offense and Denver's defense, Tom Brady isn't the first thing that comes to mind that the Broncos should be worried about. LeGarrette Blount is who they should be worried about. LeGarrette Blount, 170-something yards and 4 rush touchdowns in the AFC division round against the Colts. A team that is, did struggle in the run game. But if you look at how they ranked in terms of run defense, they gave up fewer rushing touchdowns than Denver. They did give up more yards, though. About 400 more yards. It doesn't seem like much, and it actually really isn't that much. But when you consider over the last few games, Denver's rush defense has been kind of inconsistent. They gave up 159 at Kansas City, 177 in the loss to San Diego. But I will give them credit for shutting down San Diego again in the rematch in the divisional playoffs. But I don't think we're going to see anything like that in this game. I think that New England's going to have a hell of a good game running the football. I mean, the game they played this year, in terms of running the football, it's maybe one of the best running offenses in NFL history. I mean, statistically, they're not the number 1 ranked rush offense. They're only number 9 in the league. But if you just look at how they've done the last few games, it's like a what have you done for me lately kind of thing. They ranked for 142 yards against the Ravens, 267 against the Bills, and 234 against the Colts. That's an average of 214 rushing yards per game. That is going to be stuff for anybody to stop. And the fact that Denver is shorthanded on defense and has been shorthanded for pretty much this whole year, whether it was Von Miller's suspension and now his torn ACL, or Chris Harris getting lost for the year. Champ Bailey expects to play, but it's really going to be tough for Denver to slow down New England's running game. I would have to say that that's going to be the biggest X factor, is which team, stops the other offense's strength better. How well will New England control Peyton Manning in the passing game, and how well will Denver control the Patriots' running game? The Broncos did a pretty good job of shutting down the Chargers in the divisional playoff. I know it's not as good as New England's running game, but they had Ryan Matthews, who was having a hell of a good in December and early January. And they held San Diego to 65 yards on 18 carries for a glorious little over 3 yards a carry. If anything, Denver's running game is becoming a lot better lately. No Sean Marino, who was their first-round pick forever ago, is finally starting to turn into a back that can make all the plays to be a good NFL starting running back. I mean, you look at this year, his numbers, over 1,000 yards rushing, over 500 yards receiving, a total of 13 touchdowns, and almost 1,600 yards from scrimmage. Pretty good season. He's had a really good year. And Denver's running game the last few weeks has really been effective as well. They've gone against Houston, they've gone against Oakland, they've gone against San Diego and put over 100 yards on the board every game. Ever since they included the first game against Kansas City, because they were kind of struggling the run game prior to that, averaging over 132 rushing yards a game. Not as impressive as New England's totals, but still, they've been able to move the ball very, very well. But the passing game is really where Denver is a clear-cut advantage. Their advantage in the passing game is the same as New England's in the running game. If you look at it from that standpoint, then it's kind of an even match. But I've always felt that if you got two NFL teams going against each other, and their strengths are matched up against their weaknesses, think of it like this: which team's weakness is a bigger strength is going to win that game. Like, all right, you've got this game. You've got Denver's passing and New England's running. What's better, Denver's running or New England's passing? And honestly, it's a push in that category. They've had injury problems at receiver all year long. When they had Gronk, they played very well passing the football, but since they've kind of been average. And Denver's been running the football well, good to moderately well, the last 5, 6, 7 weeks on a consistent basis. So logic has it that Denver will be able to keep them off the scoreboard just enough in order to get the victory. But I'm going to say that if Denver does want to win this game, Peyton Manning's going to have to play the best playoff game he ever played. And he's had some good playoff performances. Like a couple of the games he's had against Denver in his career when he was a member of the Colts, ironically, putting up 4, 5, 6 touchdowns. He's going to need a game like that. If he goes out there, completes half his passes, and throws as many picks as touchdowns, then New England's going to be winning this game by the end of the third quarter. Okay? It'll be over by then. It'll be like the 2004 title game when the Patriots went to Pittsburgh and played the Steelers and had a 24-3 lead by halftime. If I had to pick right now, which quarterback I think will have a better game, I think Peyton will have the better game, obviously, because he's had the better weapons. In fact, it's kind of funny because when you talk about the legacy of these two quarterbacks, you look at Peyton's numbers against Brady's rings, and yeah, he'd probably take Brady's rings, but other than Randy Moss and Wes Welker and Rob Gronkowski, who has Brady had to throw to his whole career? He had Stallworth for 1 year, and he was average. Hernandez for a couple years, and he was okay. I mean, there have been some receivers he had that were so average, it's not even funny. Brandon Lloyd was there for 1 year. He did okay. He's gone. I mean, he's had Julian Edelman, Troy Brown, Jabbar Gaffney, David Patton, Ben Watson. He's had a list of so many average players. But if you look at what Peyton Manning has had in his career, he's had Harrison and Wayne in Indianapolis. And then he had Dallas Clark on that team as well. Then he had Edgerrin James and Joseph Adai out of the backfield. Comes to Denver, he's got no Sean Marino, he's got Eric Decker, Marius Thomas, Julius Thomas. Now he's got Wes Welker from New England. The dude has had weapons wherever he goes, and Brady has had to make something out of nothing his whole career. That is why I will always say that Brady is the better quarterback. I mean, people will be like, well, if Peyton wins another ring to go along with his numbers, he's the greatest of all time. Hell no! No way is he the greatest quarterback of all time. I could think of 5 quarterbacks I'd rather have than Peyton Manning right now. Johnny Unitas, Joe Montana, John Elway, Otto Graham, yes, I said John Elway, and probably Dan Marino. Because Dan Marino had even less, and he still made the playoffs. I will say this, is that if you were to start them from 2001 on, Brady became a starting quarterback. If you were to put Brady in Indianapolis with the weapons that Peyton had, and then have him go to Denver when Peyton did, and you had Peyton play in New England all those years when Brady had nobody to throw to, Peyton Manning would have been out of the league by 2004. Because as good as he is, he's had so many good receivers in his career, it's not even funny. I will say this. Peyton's had better weapons, but Brady's done more with less. And that's why I think Brady's a better quarterback. But that really does not have much of an impact on today's game. This is Denver and New England. It really is. And that's why this game is so tough to pick, because you strip the quarterbacks in these games, or these teams are so evenly matched. The Broncos' receiving weapons are just so lethal, it can hurt you. They've got Demaryius Thomas doesn't have a good day, Julius Thomas will pick him up. Well, doesn't have a good day, Decker picks him up. And in the running game, you're playing an average to below average run defense with the best running attack of the last 3-4 weeks in the NFL. I mean, it's so evenly matched. Defense, it's really not even fair to talk about the defense, because I couldn't name half the starters on either defense. I can think of Chandler Jones and Dante Hightower and Aqib Talib for the Patriots. All of them are fine players. And for the Broncos, you've got... I really can't even name half the guys they've got in that defense, because they've been so injured all year long. I don't even know. All I know is that Von Miller was hurt. But the key for this game for Denver is how well they stop the run. Because if New England, I said it in the San Francisco-Seattle preview, if San Francisco comes into Seattle and runs the football successfully, they got a good chance of winning. But I'm not going to give away who I think is going to win that game. You have to listen to that show as well. If Denver can stop the run moderately, like if they hold the Patriots about $120, $130, they got a good chance. But if they get run all over like the Colts did for 230-something yards, it's going to be lights out for Peyton Manning's chance of another ring. On the other side, it's not so much how well the Patriots' secondary plays in this game. It's the Patriots' pass rush. Because look at this year, Peyton Manning has been sacked, has dropped back to pass 659 times. He's been sacked 18 times for a grand total of a sack percentage of 2.7%. So every 2.7 times, every 100 times he drops back to pass, he gets sacked 2.7% of the time. If he did over 1,000 attempts, 27 sacks. That offensive line for the Broncos has been so good. New England's have been a little bit iffy at times, but in terms of run blocking, they've been exponentially good. But Denver's pass rush, New England's pass rush, is not going to be consistent enough to get to Peyton Manning on maybe more than 3 or 4 times. That's the maximum number of sacks they're going to get. Chandler Jones has been a terror this year, but the other supporting cast of the Patriots defense, like Vince Wilfork and Gerard Mayo, might have been able to compensate for that in New England with the way that crowd was and the fact that, they made a couple adjustments at halftime and that Peyton Manning didn't play well. But it's in Denver. The weather in Denver's nice today. It's not cold. It's not windy or any of those things. It's a beautiful day. That shifts the advantage to the Broncos. Thin air at Mile High.